Chapter 29, in which the Cat Queen makes a living. Remember that beautiful woman who spectates the cat parade in the previous chapter? You see, this woman is not what she seemed, let me tell you. She was actually the fabled, unpredictable, and, dare I say, full-bosomed cat bus conductress, masquerading herself as a human. She's known in the streets of Codono as Miss Charlotte Simone Lenoir, an expert in mythology and folklore. 2 weeks earlier, when Princess Kitty begins her expedition, in her place is the conductress and the engineer as they wander around with the cat bus and her 2 black cats named Haruka and Minako. As luck would have it, they end up in a dark alleyway and underneath an arch, where people seldom came here as a place of refuge from bad weather. "Darling, where do you think she's going in a city like this?" purred the conductress. "I don't know," the engineer said. "But you shouldn't be here. We could get in trouble if we're caught." "Trouble?" she asked, laughing. "A fool thinks himself to be wise, but a wise man knows himself to be a fool." "And who do you think I'm a fool?" "I don't know. Maybe you're just trying to become one." "I'm serious," he snapped. "Where should we go from here without being seen?" "Don't you think the people will freak when they see a huge, furry, bus-shaped cat? I ain't taking any chances here." Already the huge Grimalkin scraped the ground with his claws. "Darling, if they do, then the fault shan't be mine," purred the conductress. "If so, he has to disguise himself so they won't recognize him." "And how'll we do that?" the engineer asked. "We'll just have to do what the Tanuki and the Kitsune did. We shall make a living in this city. The cat bus has to disguise himself as one of the city buses. I'll disguise myself as a conductress, and you disguise yourself as a driver." "I don't think this will ever work," he said nervously. "You really think that? That means we have to find a place to live. However, you leave everything to me." And with that, she has the cat bus be contorted and transformed into an ordinary city bus. In her human form, she can hear the engine rev slowly. "Darling, what's the matter?" she asked. "Did you overexert yourself?" The engine revs again. "I know, darling," she said, patting the hood of the bus. "But I must say, you never looked better." The city bus inches closer towards its owner. She turns to the engineer pitifully. Her partner, who is a Bakeneko, doesn't have to disguise himself, seeing that he was trapped in his human form indefinitely. "His city bus disguise is like any other bus in the city," she said. "No one will know the difference." "What will happen if the bus falls asleep?" the engineer asked. "We'll tell people the bus is temporarily out of service. Let us hope it sticks." On the way, she spots a raccoon on the road, its body flattened and dead. It may be someone she knew. Transforming back into her true self, she strides to the middle of the road, while the engineer calls out, "Hey! What are you doing? Stay off the road! And don't touch that raccoon! It could be diseased!" She crouches down and touches the dead raccoon with her fingers, nudging it. "Raccoon, my tits," she said. "It's a tanuki. He has no leaf on his head. He must have transformed back. You stay where you are, engineer. Or better yet, look for more cars. I'll dismantle them for spare parts." That's when she noticed a tattoo on the raccoon's arm, a Japanese word for red. "Ada," she remarked. "Poor Takagamori Gonta really knew better not to be so reckless." Never pity him, for he is not dead. He wants to put himself out of his misery. At least, that's what he thinks. She picked up the corpse and heads back to the sidewalk. I think I'm gonna be sick, the engineer said. Don't bring it near me! Then you are free to look away, darling, purred the conductress, if you don't wish to be green. She pressed her lips against Gonta's and blows into his mouth. The Tanuki's body begins to inflate and enlarge like a balloon. Bones crack, and joints pop back into place. The engineer runs to a trash can and vomits. Then she shoves Gonta to the ground, which he quickly got up to his feet. Oh, hell! He shouted. I wish you should have left me lying there. Have myself and my misery. Be glad that I spare you from the sanitary workers who dispose dead animals from residents and on city streets, she said. How did you end up on the road and with no leaf? I was sidetracked, spaced out from the scent of tempura, he remembers. Then, BAM! That stupid semi runs me flat. I can feel my organs touch the bottom of my throat. She rolled her eyes. Then you should be more careful in case you lose your leaf. I know who you are, Takagamori Gonta. You're so hot-headed, so hard-boiled, so jaundiced. Yet I happen to make a living for myself, he spat. In Moimo Harbor, I'm Gunter Hawkins, a fisherman. Which is why I came here in the first place. Make a living, as you should put it in context. And how do these humans make a living? If I were you, I would get a job like everybody else and live in an apartment. When the cat bus inches forward, Gonta asked, What's that bus doing here? That's Neko Basu, she said. He has been transformed so he can fit in, as we all. To the people, they'll know me under the false name of Catherine D. Eleanor. However, my engineer shall have no false name. Nobody cares about him. He'll just be an average driver, except with one eye. Anything else I should know about? Surely you've heard of the Princess Kitty by now. Princess Kitty? Who is this Princess Kitty? Who is this Princess Kitty? She taunted, her voice sounding like him, before speaking normally. Why, she's from another world who is destined to do great things to all of Kodono. Human beings are the only worthy form of life in the universe. Pretty soon they will find out that there's another. And where is she? What is she like, so I can have a chance to see her for myself? You keep your eyes open until she's right up your alley. She was half human and half cat, with hair pink as cotton candy, and in a cardinal-colored dress. And right now, she's starting her 3-week expedition. Oh, do keep that in mind if I see her, if I do get the chance. In the meantime, as soon as I get a replacement leaf, I'm off to work at Moimo. I will be careful next time. I shall now depart away. And then he left. She said to the engineer, We follow Gonta's advice. We shall live in a hotel trying to make a living in the city. But Miss Eleanor won't check in. I will see to that personally. Under the alias of Charlotte Lenoir, she and her partner reside in the Hotel Valerian near Main Street. It is a tall, 4-star building with beige-colored bricks and a black slate roof, with a fire escape on the facade. They both check in at the reception desk, the former carrying a cylindrical box, the latter carrying her picnic basket. I'm suggesting this might be one of the lavish hotels Kodono had to offer, she said. Indeed it is, Miss Lenoir, the clerk said, smiling. She handed him her card for him to read. So you're an expert in mythology, as in folk tales. Which mythology exactly? Shinto, meaning the way of the gods, she said. It is said that gods are present everywhere. They live in every rock, tree, or flower. There are thousands of such gods. The philosophies talk about life and existence. The beliefs are beautiful and very inspiriting. Of course, I'm mostly interested in folklore. As an expert, my fascination is with the unknown when I was 20. In my school years, especially when I was a little girl, I could have sworn I saw a ghost. Let's hope you don't see any in this hotel, Miss Lenoir. We'll see. We'll just see. Ma'am, this place was built and stood for 50 years. I like to keep it that way, in order to prevent my guests from getting spooked with talks of ghosts and boogeymen. Now I have someone to escort you to your room shortly. How very kind of you, sir, she smiled. She gives the clerk a cylindrical box. You can have this, sir. If something strange did happen to your hotel, it's guaranteed to cheer you right up. He opens the box and pulls out a beckoning cat figure, placing it onto the desk. Why, that's a very nice gift. Thank you. All you have to do is look it in the eye, she said, starting up the device with a switch. The left arm begins moving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Thank you, the clerk said. I'll bear that in mind. We hope you enjoy your stay at the Valerian. Sure enough, a young steward takes the two up to the top floor, up to their suite. Upon entering, she was used to luxury over the years. In her opinion, she had never known anything else, rather than seeing something completely modern. She was actually impressed with the large canopy bed, with scarlet-colored drapes and the smooth, thick bedspread of rich embossed fabric, the floral wallpaper, and the white paneling on the lower walls. She doesn't mind the cathedral radio, the candlestick telephone, the black metal disc fans, the cream-colored vanity table with a rectangular mirror, the finely cut crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling, the desk, well supplied with fine linen stationery bearing the name of the hotel and the address, the delicate glass vase filled with pastel-colored fresh flowers on the table, or the maroon velvet chaise lounge situated by the window. In this very room, if you look outside from here, you see the famous Market Square clock tower at a distance, the steward said. You really had an eye for which room you'll be staying. You can probably admire the stateliness. It's not my jurisdiction to use the tower to tell time, she said. Well, I say it's ostentatious, the engineer snorted. Free meals every Tuesday and Thursday, the steward said. For you and your roommate, rent is $150 a week, so I do hope you find everything you need. There's a radio and a phone in every room. Any meals? We have roast beef, roast chicken, pork chops, lamb chops, sausages, bacon, steak, boiled potatoes, roast potatoes, Yorkshire pudding, peas, carrots, and tempura. Desserts include ice cream in every flavor you can think of, apple pies, treacle tarts, chocolate eclairs, jam donuts, lemon curd, and rice pudding. Oh, and something about a meat-filled pastry of some sort. Anyway, you let us know if you want something to eat by calling room service. You'll find the number inside your guest directory next to your nightstand. In the meantime, I expect you to feel acquainted and relax. After all, it's already summer, with the preparations for the city's 200th birthday already underway. With a sharp glare, Charlotte can see a button that's missing from the steward's right sleeve of his uniform. Calmly, she slowly takes off her eyeglasses and her earrings. Considering what I paid for these accommodations, I would hardly expect less than all of this, sir, as if I desired to be formal, she said. Herman Muldowney, ma'am, he replied. Well then, Mr. Muldowney, I would like you to do something for me, she said, her voice gradually deepening. Oh, he said, smiling. Anything. absolutely anything. If you want me to make your stay pleasant, I'm always around, just like the other stewards who work here. Just say what you want. I'm listening." Right in front of him, she began to transform as she became taller, her bosom slightly pushing out, her ears became pointed, her teeth grew into fangs, her face almost cat-like, and her eyes becoming yellow, with black slit pupils. "I don't suppose you would remember me," the half-transformed creature snarled. "Have you?" The steward's eyes were wide with shock and horror, his smile fading away, but he kept his composure. "Why would I?" he said. "You're the most respectable in the underground. No mortal will dare oppose you." "Herman Muldowney. Quite a very unique alias you've used, Shakachi. Ma'am, so many guests I've seen, the many food I give until I met you, out of all the yokai. As long as you work here, make sure we're not discovered from the outside. Would you do it for me?" "Of course. I'll see to that right away." "Please be careful when you go out yourself." She bowed. "I shall leave you to continue with your job. Someone might need you. But just to make sure... you'll be delivering my cat figurines to every guest and staff later. Then you'll have my things for my cat bus be brought here. You'll find him in an alley, disguised as a condemned bus. And when will we be having dinner?" "I will be expecting some vermin, just as long as you don't get yourself dismissed. And hopefully no other guests will notice a button missing on your uniform." Realizing, the steward looked at his right sleeve. There was a button actually missing on his uniform. Blushing at this embarrassment, he immediately left the room. The conductress walked inside the bathroom and turned on the light. The room was fully equipped with thick white towels, tiny bars of wrapped Vinolia soap, and beautiful light fixtures. On the edge of the bathtub was a bottle labeled Dupree Deluxe Bubble Bath. She approached a mirror above a porcelain basin where she cautiously looked at her reflection before her transformation progressed, with her entire body becoming taller and covered in fur, her bosom pushing out further, and her tail jutting out from behind. While she admires her reflection, outside, the engineer, of course, was only unamused at what they're about to go through. He placed the basket onto the bed, and the cats come out, stretching onto the bedspread. She came out of the room. "These are exquisite furnishings, darling," she said. "As impressive as any I've seen in the better hotels or the better mansions."
"I do hope you take this all seriously, boss," he snapped. 150 a week.
"Darling, I'm sure I would appreciate a change in your tone of voice." Without waiting for reprimand, he turned on the radio. Jazz music began playing. "We'll be staying for a month or two," she said.
"Hopefully we have enough to afford rent by then,"
he said bitterly.
"And what if that raccoon of yours show up here?"
"Raccoons are bandits. Tanuki have these ginormous magical unmentionables between their legs."
"I don't see any difference. They're the same to me."
"Oh, wait a second. Let me see. Do normal raccoons have huge testicles?" "Nope, not the same, darling."
"That's beside the point, boss."
"I've already told you about your voice, darling. Besides, Shakachi got us covered, as long as he does what he is told. And if that foul-tempered Gonta comes here, I'll make sure to give him some tempura. Maybe someday I shall go look for him and invite him over. And he better not lose his replacement leaf."
"Oh, that ain't gonna happen, boss," he said, pointing his finger. "You tell that Shakachi that we should keep these few weeks without incident."
"Without?"
Did I stutter? I think you heard me. It's for our own good. I do not agree with you. I always overpower you at any chance I get. It's such bad fun to prolong this discussion any further.
But it's best not to get carried away so soon, he protested. We just got here. We certainly don't even want to get kicked out so easily.
You want to know something funny? She asked.
What?
She's already behind him and protrudes one black claw on her forefinger. That's strike 3, she answered. Then she digs her claw into the back of his neck. His eyes bulged out as the paralysis begins flowing down his spine. He wanted to scream, but it was choked out when the paralysis reached his vocal cords. When it reached his legs, he immediately fell on his back. With a few spastic jerks, he relaxed and lay still. Haruka and Minako looked down and laughed at his paralysis, much to the joy of the conductress. Turning away, she picks up the phone.
Hello?
Darling, is that you? She said to
Yes,
Gonta on the
it's
phone.
me. And don't call me darling. I don't like being called that.
Sorry, really bad habit. I was hoping if you show up here.
Now is not the time. I already told you. I'm at the harbor working.
Then when will you come?
I'll probably go in a few days. How's that?
A few days. Fine by me. Tuesday and Thursday had free meals, just to let you know.
Just as long as it has tempura. So, where are you staying?
We're at the Hotel Valerian near Main Street. Got all that?
Yeah, I got it.
I'm sure you do. Be seeing you, darling.
I told you not to call me darling! Didn't you hear a word I just said?
By
you
the time
stupid
she
bitch?
hangs up, she peers down at the engineer, pitifully. Look what you've made me do, she sneered. You know, I hope you're not planning on regretting. I'll make sure me and my friends are going all out, whether you like it or not. Even though he's paralyzed, he understood. But he understood in disgust. She flopped onto the bed on her back next to the cats, resting her head on a soft, fat bed pillow, her bosom bouncing up and down. Haruka spoke up.
What would happen if you stumble onto the Princess Kitty, Mother?
The conductor stroked the cat's neck, assuring her. She won't recognize me, except I'll do her bidding at every step of the way. Her voice is now low and soothing as a little kitten curled up inside a makeshift bed on a wicker basket. I get the feeling that the Princess Kitty is happy living in a city like this. I'm really looking forward in keeping it that way. If she's convinced that everyone should welcome her like something new and novel, I'll make sure they do. If she had a persuasive voice, I would make sure that it was heard.
Is that so?
Minako asked. The people, the grown-ups, they grow up and believe in what is real and nothing else, always depending on precision and order, purred the conductress. She must be believed to be seen, and I'm sure she'll make enough.
Believing in what is real and nothing else,
Haruka said. Minako whined.
Oh, Mother, I don't think it's ever...
I know we are not real to them, the conductress stated. So is the Princess Kitty, unless she is welcomed. So make sure you get yourself comfortable, darling. We're going to be here a long while, especially with the leisure we'll be getting. She goes back to the bathroom and draws herself a hot bath, thinking of the pleasures that await herself and her friends. However, the paralyzed engineer was already dreading what's to come in just a few days. How could he expect each other to be in good spirits during this stay without getting kicked out of the hotel? Having gone to visit her at the hotel was bad enough. A few days later, Gonta visits the conductress in her hotel room. Looking around, He was impressed with the decorations and the furniture, including the conductress's Victrola from the cat bus, brought here by Shakuchi, along with a box of records.
"Well, look at this," Gonta said. "Out of all the hotels in Kodono, you had to pick the Valerian."
"Kondo?" she asked.
"You tell me, lady, as long as there's tempura being served here."
"Then I think you're going to like it here, just as long as you wait until tomorrow or next Tuesday."
"Not to mention 150 a week," the engineer said.
"Of course I know that," Gonta said. "That's one of the few things that makes the Valerian one of the most expensive and swankiest hotels in the city. Nearly expensive as the Oxford down in Covington Road." The conductress reached for the phone to call room service. "You came here just for tempura? Then that's what you're getting. So I hope you get comfy." Gonta stared at her strangely.
"Who said I ain't?"
Later, while feasting on tempura, he shared stories of his time at Morimo Harbor to the conductress.
"I was in Morimo Harbor seeing those reckless people and their equipment," he said. "I mean, I saw a Sizeman accidentally bump crates of fresh fish, knocking them over like dominoes and spilled out like an open wound. The fish then got spoiled. Can you believe it? All that work for the past week and a half for nothing. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't control myself because I heard people scream bad words before slapping him into submission."
Felt bad for him, though, when he was suspended for a few weeks with his pay forfeited. That's the price he paid for indiscipline.
It's about knowing how to conduct a business. Come to think of it, it's a hard life out in the community, you know. Harder as coal mining in Withermire.
"Anything else I must know?" she said, lying back against the chaise, her long tail slinking like a serpent. He stopped and became serious.
"Oh, there is," he said. "Remember that cat person you told me?"
She perks up. "What about her?"
"I met her at the harbor today."
"And what did she say to you?"
"She told me she'll be more careful there, after I also told her that it's no place for a girl like her."
"You see her again?"
"I think she may be still in the harbor." "Oh, hell, I don't know where she'll end up in. Speaking of which, I could have sworn I saw another girl with pink hair out on a boat with a load of seamen."
"That's because she's the same girl, you rotund thickwit!" the engineer shouted.
"Hey!" Gonta exclaimed. "I don't want to hear your bad lip right now."
Remembering her presence, he added quickly,
"You know, not if I've heard of her."
"Well, I say that's unexpected news," she said, rising from the chaise.
"Unexpected, lady?"
"Unexpected, darling. The princess departs, the queen stays. It's a good thing that I've listened to you about finding a place to live. When was I ever in anything less?"
"Oh, hell. I have no idea why she's on a boat with a bunch of seamen in the first place. I'm certain they're even superstitious in having a female on board. They're no different from any sailor in Morimo."
"Just as long as they don't refuse her. Chances are, she'll probably do great things to impress them."
"What kind?"
Then she bent down and wrapped her arms around him, causing his heart to beat faster as he felt her bosom squish against his chest. "You have no idea what she's capable of, do you?" she cooed.
"No better than you, apparently,"
he snorted, pushing her off.
"Well, she just happens to summon me by magic. Brought me into existence last Sunday. We were up on the roof and saw the little children. We came down and greet them. Then the hen sighed just as we hear noises from one of the neighbors. Curious as my bus. He went up on the roof and saw a mean Doberman barking and some crazy lady screaming at him. After the lady left, the bus has made an appetizer out of the dog. There was bones crunching and the tenderizing."
"That's nothing!"
the engineer screamed.
"You even have the bus attack her and damage your car!" "And why would your cat bus do that?" Gonta asked.
"No reason," purred the conductress. I think she's mean, she's vile, she has no redeeming qualities. She really gives a bad name to every neighborhood. Humans can be so arrogant. They don't believe in anything these days.
What happened next?
The Princess Kitty comes in with the children, and we met them. Before heading out to Bomvaria, their grandfather joined us. He's my favorite. And when we reached Bomvaria, I gave her a bell to summon the cat bus.
Did she summon you again?
She summoned me, and I found that soldiers are threatening her and the old man. We stopped them, especially that wolf-like weasel. She tells us why. The children are turned to pigs as well as the other children in the country. The terrible Baron wants to turn them into pork. That I mustn't tolerate. So we've interfered and overthrow the entire empire with one swift stroke. When we get home, we turn the pigs back into children, and we send them to an orphanage. Then, just before dawn, her royal family came to her, telling her to start an expedition. We then take the family back to their kingdom.
I don't get why grown-ups should be friends with a cat. What are you going to do now while she's gone?
No idea now, except stay here. She makes her way to the Victrola. What would you like to hear, darling?
You choose, he said, annoying. And don't call me darling.
She starts up and plays a record on the Victrola. It began blaring out a song that goes, "No one to talk with, all by myself. No one to walk with, but I am happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehavin', I'm saving my love for you. I know for certain, the one I love, I'm through with flirtin', it's just you I'm thinking of. Ain't misbehavin', I'm saving my love for you."
I think you're better off performing on a stage as a thespian instead of controlling a furball to go places, he said.
Thespian, she said. I'm not only attracted to the same gender, I'm attracted to both genders.
He frowned. I really had to ask. She goes on.
Seeing that the Princess Kitty has left, there won't be a problem with the children seeing her, because they're not supposed to see her until the 3rd week. In the meantime, you can come visit here as long as you want. As a bonus, I'll let you bring the rest of your kind, my other friends from the underground. They really miss their queen for ages.
Oh, how long it's been since I last saw you?
Quite as long as you'd estimate. Ever since the Edo period, an unprecedented time of peace and prosperity, yokai like ourselves blend in with mankind and make a living of themselves. Either you work hard, or you'll have better luck elsewhere, especially while you're still living in an ordinary city like Kodono.
Well, I now think that the time has come. I will have the rest of the Tanuki be brought to the hotel for a shindig next Sunday night. Now that you and your engineer are present, do you want me to be concerned about any unwanted interference? Maybe I could throw in a scare or two.
Concern will get you nowhere, especially if I catch you with your eyes on my breast.
Well, how could I?
The Princess Kitty has already head off to sea, Gonta. That is something we should be aware about. Alone and encouraged above the waves, she's bound to face any obstacle, eventually, something the seamen on board should be concerned about. Well, let us hope they're lucky enough there's a creature like that girl they should depend on. They'll all be over her in the same principle mosquitoes crave for blood. Otherwise, without her, I'm certain they'll be full of absolute dread, because they have no idea what trouble lies ahead. On Sunday night,
The hotel room was animated with a whirl of excitement. Just as Gonta mentioned, the assortment of Tanuki from the underground showed up here for a party. Every Tanuki from the underground has been accounted for, the most alarming of them. Playing on his acoustic guitar was Shakuchi, the well-respected of the Tanuki, friendly to the others and providing entertainment for all. In Kodono, he works as a hotel steward for 8 hours under the alias of Herman Muldowney. The female who's serving miso ramen noodles to the others is Mistress Kakyu, the old fireball. She was a formidable Tanuki, with a practical, no-nonsense air, dressed in her purple kimono with a yellow obi tied around her waist, and a geisha wig decorated with combs and hairpins. In Kodono, she resides in Mulberry Street, and currently works as a caterer or stewardess under the alias of Mabel Pearson. The less focused of the bunch, who currently had his head stuck inside a vase, is fat and sloppy Pokichi, while the serious and robust Bunta tries to get him out. Bunta was no professional when it comes to cooking like Kakyu. Of course, he had learned how through trial and error, especially working under the alias of Colin McFarlane. Like many cooks before him, his first cooking experiments didn't turn out as good as he'd first hoped. It even makes him lose his job at a restaurant after giving the patrons food poisoning. Pokichi, even though he was a big eater, does odd jobs under the alias of Horace Beckwith. He currently works in a haberdashery somewhere in Wincott Road, and trying to make a living off of it. Next we have Kumataro and Tommaso Buto, wearing buckets as helmets, and using broom handles as swords, fighting each other, causing a sheer ruckus which may or may not cause complaints from next door. Either they cause a ruckus, or reenact a battle from ancient times. Who knows? Then we have the most social, Hayashi and Sasuke, who are currently planning on going on a business trip in Kanagawa Prefecture. Then we have the females, Hanako, Koharu, and Okio, just 3 who made a living in the streets as either actresses or torch singers. All 3 have grown a fondness to that cat bus conductress. Finally, a trio of Tanuki whose names are Daichi, Takashi, and Miyu. Daichi was lanky, with a crescent birthmark on his right eye and a short-sighted ego that makes him prideful. Around his neck was a thick roped noose, which will serve as either a necktie or a collar. He is prone to stalk 2 of his fellow Tanuki. His weapon of choice was a Tanakashima pistol brought from the Edo period, once used by samurais. In the streets of Kodono, in his human disguise, he was called George Beaumont, his noose replaced with an actual necktie. Takashi was short-tempered, with a bowl-shaped haircut, a paunch on his body, and a coarse, raspy voice. He especially disliked being fed up with Daichi's behavior. However, he had a fond interest in culinary arts and musical theater. In the streets of Kodono, in his human disguise, he was called Gilbert Hanley. Miyu was considered a bruiser and is happily married to Takashi, although they seldom had enough time to spend with one another. In the streets of Kodono, in her human disguise, he was called Belle Hanley. What's more about the 3 of them is that they struggle to make a living as humans in cities, especially in Japan. But try as they may, their antics, especially from Daichi, got in the way, most of which is responsible for many, many disasters over the years. Joining the party are 3 Japanese legends, but sadly they only speak in their language. One is Inugami Gyobu, a hulking monster Tanuki who is told about in legends passed down in Matsuyama, most notably Tale of the Matsuyama Disturbance and the 808 Tanuki. The next is Kincho, the chief of the local Tanuki, aged around 206 years old, from the Japanese legend about a great war between 2 Tanuki powers that takes place at the Awa province. Finally, the senile Yashima no Hage, who appears in the legends of Yashima, Takamatsu, Kawaga Prefecture. And of course, there's Haruka and Minako,
scratching their claws on the hotel room curtains. Already the party is underway. Some sing and dance while others get drunk on liquor and feast on nothing but ramen noodles. In order to prevent interference from the outside, Shakuchi delivered the conductress's cat figures to every other guest, in order to bewitch them. One of the females, Koharu, approached the conductress.
"When can I see your bus?"
"Maybe not tonight, darling," put the conductress. "He needs his beauty rest. Why don't you have something to eat before Ponkachi devours the table when he gets his head out?"
"Are you calling me fat?"
Ponkachi rants from inside the vase.
"You know I have an eating disorder and a gradual problem."
"And it's starting to become uncomfortable for the rest of us," the conductress said.
"I have no idea what you're saying, but I don't think it sounds nice."
Ponkachi ranted.
"At all."
Upon settling in, she already replaced her black clothes. She's now wearing a cardinal-colored fur-lined coat with black spots around the huge white fluffy collar and matching cuffs. Underneath her coat, she wore a tight brown waistcoat underneath her white blouse. She was shod in black high-heeled boots with silver soles over gray tights, and on her hands were white gloves with the claws protruding out of them. To the yokai, she looked like a queen. Mistress Kakyu approaches the conductress with a bowl of ramen noodles.
"The finest of our culture, Queen,"
she said.
"Make sure everybody gets their dish, you old fireball,"
put the conductress.
"Yes, anything for you, Queen. Please excuse me if I walk slowly. My legs are bothering me more than usual."
"I never chew out ancient somebodies like you."
"Oh, thank you, Queen. It's just that I've been working in Mulberry Street for 12 years. However, I think things are moving too swiftly in Kodono. That's not like the ancient world. Not like it at all."
The conductress turns her attention to the engineer.
"Darling, why aren't you having a ball?"
"I suggest you keep your rowdy get-together to a minimum," the engineer said. "We don't want to be heard for miles."
"In a city like this, anything can happen, darling. As long as our landlord and the other occupants are under my spell, we are untouchable."
"Then I'll just listen to Paul Whiteman while everyone else is drunk from booze."
Then he gets his face doused with alcohol by Osho, the fool, before going into a cackling frenzy, while he wears a woman's bra on his head from his recent raid.
"I won't have you stealing women's underwear all night," the engineer roared. "Now you take them off! This is immature behavior!"
"Why don't you come and make me? One-eyed grandpa!"
Osho cackled, and throws a bottle at the engineer's head before running off, shouting,
"Cock-a-doodle-wee-wee!"
The conductress banged the end of her hickory cane onto the floor, making the tanuki pay attention to her as she announces,
"And now, folks, it's time for Who Should You Support?
Aito kei omote. Who should you support? Me? I already have enough in the city, thank you for asking. So what about the Princess Kitty? And where would she be? She'd be anywhere in the city, chasing off the Princess Mouse. Hope she saved what's left of her for me. I usually get hungry a lot." Wild laughs sounded at odd places around the room. "Miso ramen for everybody," she said. "So straighten up your balls, it's going to be a long night. Electrify the boys and girls if you be so kind, Shakuchi."
"Right away, Queen,"
Shakuchi said, before starting another tune on his guitar. The tanuki dance and sing.
"Tan tan tanuki no katama wa kaze mo nai no ni bura bura."
But the festivities were short-lived when the engineer gets their attention. He wants them to listen to the radio. Growling, Gyobu shouted in his language.
"Who you calling an idiot, pissbag?"
the engineer screamed. Gyobu lets out an enraged roar at the engineer's face and throws him out the window, while the tanuki is paying attention to the Phineas Trout on the radio. He reports,
"Now, in other news, just half an hour ago at Morimo Harbor,
The CGKS received an urgent mayday from sociologist Lawrence Larry Barnes of the fishing vessel Maybelle. He messages that the ship is taking on water, probably during a terrible storm just off our city. Just before the CGKS asked the ship for the coordinates, all communications were lost.
The conductress begins to snicker as Phineas continues.
Now, fearing that the ship is presumed lost at sea, search parties will be organized on Tuesday just outside of our city. For those who are the families of these 35 men and the captain, regardless of their faith, I ask you to join me in a prayer for them. For their survival is depending on them with each crucial moment.
But she can't hold it in any longer, and lets out a loud cackle. It doesn't take long for the Tanuki to follow suit, even the 3 legends. However, Gonta was the only Tanuki who didn't laugh.
Hey, is that how you respect the presumed missing? He shouted. By laughing like it's some kind of sick joke? Sure, I don't like humanity, but I have a hokey side for them.
She lets out a shout of faux elation, the sound trilling through the room like music.
A little overconfidence has proven too much for the Maybelle. Now, I don't think this is one bit funny!
She snarled suddenly, pointing one black claw at the back of his neck, causing him to yelp. Then you have no sense of humor.
That's what this Princess Kitty is on, he said. The ship that went missing.
Then the crew should be lucky.
Lucky?
He asked, pushing her away. Things will turn out good in the end. The Princess Kitty will save them.
Well, what if she doesn't want to use her magic?
Then someone must do something about it.
Like the search party?
Shakuchi asked. No, Shakuchi, purred the conductress. We'll make the search party unavailable.
Nan no hanashi o shite iru no?
Kincho asked. Tanuki are pretty good at mischief, she said. Interfere. Make them unfit. Can we do that? Bunta asked.
Are you kidding, Bunta?
Daichi steps in, speaking loudly among the others.
Given what the 3 of us went through, it's probably what we're good at. Oh, leave us out for the sake of everybody's sanity, Takashi groaned. The Queen's right, Mistress Kaku said. We shall let the Catgo Princess save the crew members herself. Guess it isn't a total loss after all.
Then what do you think, darling? The conductress said. The choice is yours. Are we going to let the search party save the crew, or are we going to let the princess save them herself?
Let's go for the princess!
The Tanuki exclaimed. Even Gonta agrees.
I say we celebrate!
Pakaji said, before Osho smashes the vase with a skillet. The Tanuki cheers at the idea.
May Princess Kitty prevail!
Osho shrieked.
Yeah, let's party till we blow chunks!
Gonta shouted. The engineer landed face first through the vinyl roof of a parked car, leaving him groaning. However, he managed to open the car door and roll out of the car and onto the ground, landing on his belly.
Mongrels,
he muttered. Just then, he felt someone's foot roll him to the side against the car. Looking up, he can see a white-furred kitsune with red marks on his face, the tips of his 9 tails, and his ears. He wore a dark suit over a white dress shirt with black pants and black shoes. A tie with red and white stripes dangled from his shirt collar. I think the owner of this car will be upset if he sees you with it, he said flatly.
You tell it to Frankenstein open this hotel. You take out with him.
The kitsune raised an eyebrow at that. So this is where I find the queen. Right here. I've been looking for her all day.
She's here all right, the engineer said. What do you want, some kind of reward?
The kitsune pressed the end of his cane against the engineer's belly. The engineer groaned in pain once more. I don't think you know something about me or not, the kitsune said. But when you're in my presence... Then his voice became low as he pressed his cane more onto the engineer's gut. Don't make me angry.
I bloody remember,
the engineer managed to say.
He can feel the cane removed from his abdomen. Now about the Queen. Do you know which room she's in? The kitsune asked. So you could be plagued with delusions too? The engineer snapped. If you don't answer me, you will lose your privilege to speak forever. Which room is she in? Time is short. I'll take you to her, all right. The engineer groaned. As another rowdy dance became underway, Okio approached Gonta, carrying yesterday's newspaper.
Say, have you ever heard of this? She asked. Heir to the Danish crown, Frederick IX marrying the lovely Princess Ingrid in Corico last Friday. Oh, I just love hearing such an endearing wedding like this.
Yeah, go figure, Gonta said. If that really is endearing, I'm pretty sure you could tell me about their honeymoon next. Then Hanako approached them, wearing a makeshift dress out of the hotel drapes.
Hey, Gonta, can you guess what I am?
An airhead broad who's wearing curtains? Gonta guessed dumbly.
Don't be stupid,
Hanako scoffed and raised up her arms.
I'm Ava Tanguay, and this hotel room's the Jardin de Paris. Hey, how's this for vaudeville? If only Norworth and Bays can see me now.
Twirling around, she sang,
I don't care what they may think of me. I'm happy-go-lucky, men say I am plucky, so jolly and carefree.
She was suddenly jerked back by Gonta, pulling the end of the drapes. She screamed as she flies back and landed into Okio's arms. Then they glared dangerously at Gonta. Hey, don't go glaring at me like that, he chuckled. I hear vaudeville is also known for comedy acts. What's so wrong with that? Okio shouted.
You're a stupid jerk! That's what's wrong!
Then she carries Hanako away, assuring her that she did good. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door.
I'll get it!
Punkachi calls out. He opens the door. Standing on the doorway was the kitsune, dragging the engineer with him.
Hey, engineer!
Punkachi said.
You didn't tell me you've brought a friend with you?
The kitsune threw the engineer at Punkachi, causing him to fly back and collide with Mistress Kakyu.
Punkachi, you fat tub of excrement! She shouted. You had a lot!
Then she stopped when she see the kitsune. In shock, she regained her composure immediately and bowed.
Furukawa Ryotaro, she quickly said. What are you doing here?
What I'm looking for, Ryotaro the kitsune said, bowing. What do you want? She asked.
Yeah,
Punkachi said.
Want something to eat?
Shindigs like these don't interest me, unless it's from a red light district, Ryotaro said flatly. And stop this party. I have something urgent to say. Immediately, Mistress Kakyu shouted,
Everyone! Everybody stop! Stop playing and pay attention!
The party immediately stopped. Everyone's eyes gazed at Ryotaro as he pressed on, addressing them. You all must know for a fact that I'm not here to participate in your little party. I'm here just to look for the Bakineko Cat Queen of the Underground. If she is present in this rowdy domicile, she would like to step forward. Well now, purred the Cat Queen. Would it kill you to say please? Also, I don't suppose you still remember me. He shook his head. I'd be a fool or dead if I ever forget the most well-known, the most respected, and the most feared Cat Queen of the Underground. Is the night so young? You come to be a part of our get-together? I'm all ears. I'm not here to party, Queen, he said coldly. Mistress Kakyu asked, Well, is there something I and the Tanuki can do to please you tonight? I think you should leave the pleasing to his mistress, Fireball, purred the Cat Queen, especially in an old bedroom in the dark. Your humor towards me is very underwhelming, Ryotaro said. This is an urgent matter. I've been sent here by the great wolf of the forest. Immediately,
Mistress Kaku's eyes went wide.
The sacred goddess!
She exclaimed.
She's here?
Just outside the city limits, Ryotaro said. Immediately, she got down on her knees.
Everyone kneel! For the great wolf is here in our city, she shouted. She must be appeased at once!
The Tanuki kneeled and prayed silently. They all rang out. Bless the wolf spirit and all those who follow her. Bless the endurance of her deep serenity. May her existence cherish the world. May she keep the world for those who follow her.
Knock it off! The engineer groaned. This place ain't no Shinto shrine!
He's right, Ryotaro stated. Save them for the wolf. What does she want, Ryotaro? Purred the Cat Queen. Ryotaro replied, She wants me to give you this urgent message. She wants to see you immediately. At this moment, she is waiting for you and your Tanuki folk, and she doesn't want to be kept waiting. It's dark inside the forest outside the city limits, but the kitsune had a red paper lantern hanging from a hooked staff to light the way to the great wolf. The Cat Queen, the engineer, and the Tanuki follow him. The females are dressed in pink kimonos, while the males are dressed in blue yukatas. They have their hair tied to a bun. Some wore black wigs that were tied to a bun, including the engineer. To be honest, darling, I didn't expect her to be here, purred the Cat Queen to Ryotaro. Neither do I, Queen, Ryotaro said. She used to be in the forest of the underground like you, but now just several days ago, I happened to find her here, just outside the city limits.
How did you find her here?
The engineer asked. Every morning, I do my routine business in these woods, tending to the little creatures who are small and docile and enervated, and becoming one with nature while writing books that aren't real, Ryotaro said. One day, when Destiny came, I saw her dormant body, and when she arouses and looks straight at me, I immediately submit before her. She's already aware of where she is, but like me, she may remain here, becoming a guardian to nature, a goddess to it. Should men tear down these trees or hunt down an animal in the future, they will succumb to her enmity. Should a weary traveler come here with a good heart, she becomes placid. However, since she first came here, her appearance would drive the traveler away. Should people see her, they would think she's a scourge.
Do you think it involves Princess Kitty, boss? The engineer asked.
Possibly, darling, purred the Cat Queen. Now that she lives in the city, it's only a matter of time when creatures like us will no longer be invisible to those who don't believe in anything. This girl happens to be the one. Corporeal to the public? Ryotaro asked, shaken. That's something you shouldn't be concerned, darling, seeing that you use your abilities to disguise yourself and earn money. We're nearly there. Make sure you kneel. She likes to be appeased and worshipped. After all, she is a goddess. The group stopped at a huge creature, about 40 feet in height, and that was on all fours. She has long silver fur, black eyes with pink scleras, large teeth, and a dark gray nose. The Tanuki immediately kneel to her, including the Cat Queen and the engineer. Bless yourself, and all those who follow you, the Cat Queen began. Bless the endurance of your deep serenity. May your existence cherish the world. May you keep the world for those who follow you. She can hear a low growl from the wolf's lips. The wolf seemed to be appeased by her. How could I not forget you, darling? The Cat Queen asked. Sadly, this is no longer the Edo period. I see a terrible catastrophe, loyal Cat Queen, the great wolf of the forest said. Her voice rumbles, her mouth barely moving. A fishing vessel caught in a storm by stormfish. And are they rescued? Surely someone is helping them. I see a catgirl princess helping them. even after what the crew did to cause this catastrophe by catching an infant stormfish. And how many were lost? Nearly half succumbed to the wrath of the stormfish. I can see that the surviving crew are going to listen to her from now on. It is the only solution to help them survive and get back home. The Cat Queen turned to Gonta. You work at Morimo. Do you think she'll come back?
She might, he said. The Maybelle is expected to return in 8 days. They have 4 days left to return.
Unless the search party finds them, Mistress Kaku said. You must know, Great Wolf, purred the Cat Queen, that we have plans of our own. Plans involving the locals at Morimo Harbor. We don't want them to reach this ship and the crew. It could be a concern for the Princess Kitty, which is why we should interfere, prevent the harbor's rescue boats from ever reaching them. So this Princess Kitty can get the crew home by herself, the Great Wolf of the Forest said. But if she doesn't, I'll think of sending supernatural reinforcements. I myself foresee a slight problem that involves the locals of the underground, Cat Queen. It will take patience before we should be seen by anyone who doesn't believe, darling. That way, they'll realize that human beings are not the only worthy forms of life. No thanks to her. If she makes herself known, then so could we. That includes you. A god like you speak for the forest. How could I ever thank her enough? The Great Wolf of the Forest begins to feel fatigued as she slowly lies down. And what will you do next if she returns? What else? Purred the Cat Queen. We shall support the princess. That is our vow, mostly mine. Then I shall meet her myself. But it is not the time, Cat Queen. In the meantime, I will rest. Twilight is upon me, yes. Pretty soon, night shall fall. That's when Shakachi steps forward and plays his guitar, singing, Mori no Okami, lovely goddess, go forth and rest while preserving those who are meek and defenseless. From here to the meadows, go forth and rest, which shows no end, until the day that you'll be aroused by any sort of creature that wanders around.
Oh, shut up, Shakachi! The engineer shouted. Why would you be singing to her? She ain't no baby in a pram.
If you must know, I'd do anything to appease her, engineer, Shakachi stated. Just think of what she can do if she's not. You could get hurt or killed for your lack of reverence. Don't worry, purred the Cat Queen. She won't be doing anything. Already, the Great Wolf of the Forest closed her eyes, and her huge body becomes motionless. That's because I have appeased her with my song, thank you very much, Shakachi said.
You appeased her, all right, Takashi said. You happened to put some of the Tanuki to sleep, trying to be the next John McCormick.
What are you going to do now, Queen? Ryotaro asked. In the meantime, maybe you should join us back to the hotel and relax, purred the Cat Queen. Celebrate with us if you like. And as long as we have the Princess Kitty, you should put your fears of being corporeal to the public at ease. This is my way of telling you that many things will change. If I do that, please don't make me regret this. As far as we are concerned, I fear that these people will fear us instead of welcoming us with open arms. We were originated as demons from folklore. That is the problem with the people in this city, nonetheless, Mistress Kaku said. People are concerned by what they don't understand, by what they don't believe in.
However, all that's about to change, I'm afraid, Gonta said. As long as Princess Kitty remains a Kodono, We won't have any problems now, do we? All right, Ryotaro said. I do hope my mistress back home have the breast to forgive me. So it's settled then. We shall give the Princess Kitty immense praise, the Cat Queen announces to the Tanuki, while we celebrate with wild parties for the next few days. And they do celebrate for the rest of the night, along with Ryotaro, fully relieved that there's nothing to be concerned about being corporeal, and seeing the most well-known, most respected, and most feared Cat Queen of the Underground in a life of leisure inside a common hotel room.